Hello and welcome back to Much Ado About Nerd Things. My name is Lynn and let's go straight into talking about WandaVision episode 4. No whimsical theme song this time around, as this episode, titled We Interrupt This Program, do just that by taking us right back to the blip. For those people whose memory need refreshing, the blip is when in Endgame, Hulk used Infinity Stones to bring back everyone who was snapped away by Thanos in Infinity War. As Monica gets undusted, we hear a few lines of dialogue from Captain Marvel movie, which ends with Carol Danvers calling young Monica by her nickname, Lieutenant Trouble. This effectively tells people who haven't been spoiled by the casting news that the Geraldine we've been seeing in Wanda's sitcom world is in fact Monica Rambeau, the little girl we last met in Captain Marvel. We then finally see the MCU tackle the fallout of the blip, which they kinda just make a bunch of jokes about in Spider-Man Far From Home. In the midst of the chaos, Monica finds out the sad news that her mom has passed away in her absence. We do get that frustrating trope of a doctor breaking news in a non-logical but more dramatic order.
Yes, he's lost his left hand, so he's going to be all right.
You son of a bitch! I hate this doctor!
It's one of my pet peeves. Look, she have all the relevant information to just say, Monica, you along with half the population disappeared 5 years ago. Your mom unfortunately passed away 2 years into your disappearance because her cancer came back. I'm sorry. We then jump ahead to Monica returning to work at SWORD headquarters, which seems to be modeled after one of the SpaceX bases. We get a lot of information dumped on us as we meet the acting director Tyler Hayward. We get told what SWORD stands for in the MCU, which is Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Department. Now, in the comics, SWORD stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. And in this conversation, they heavily imply that it used to be called that in the MCU as well, and that this is a recent change, by talking about how a new mandate had changed their focus from space missions to sentient weapons. We also learned that Monica's mother, Maria Rambeau, built swords from ground up, just like Peggy Carter did with S.H.I.E.L.D. Here we're reminded of something we already knew from Captain Marvel, that Maria Rambeau's, Monica's mom, call sign is Photon. This is relevant because Photon is one of the many superhero names that Monica Rambeau has gone by. She's also known as Spectrum, and at one point even took the mantle of Captain Marvel. We then get told by Hayward that Monica is grounded to terrestrial missions only, which heavily imply that SWORD does regular missions in space. Now, keep in mind, this is 3 weeks after Monica returned from the blip, which means it is set before Spider-Man Far From Home. Many have speculated that the space station we see in the after-credit scene in Far From Home is a SWORD facility. There's a chance that this is true, and we could even see it here. I also have this theory that Doctor Strange could show up in this series, since it's very likely that it will be revealed that magic is involved here somehow. And we were told in Far From Home that Doctor Strange was unavailable to help.
There's gotta be someone else you can use.
Doctor Strange.
Unavailable.
We could see during the course of this show what made him unavailable. And as Monica is sent to liaise with the FBI over a missing person case, we are reunited with my favorite FBI agent, Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the first thing we notice is it seems he finally learned that trick from Scott Lang.
Close-up magic.
I learned that. How'd you do it, Scott?
James E. Woo, FBI.
We then immediately find out that something weird is going on, because these cops, while standing right next to a sign that says Westview and admitting they're from Eastview, claims that the town of Westview never existed. Jimmy also tells us that there is something subtle compelling people to not come into the town. Now, there's a lot of people theorizing and obsessing over who this person in witness protection program is, but I think it's a red herring. I think it's just here to explain how the spell works and how Jimmy will end up investigating this. So some sort of spell was cast to make the town of Westview be forgotten by everybody and urging people to not come into town, and for people who have friends and relatives in town to forget about those people as well and not miss them. But unbeknownst to whoever set up the spell, someone under witness protection program lives in this town, meaning they have to check in regularly with the FBI. When they fail to check in, it triggers a check, and the FBI agent Jimmy Woo has to chase up the leads. And Jimmy Woo isn't affected by the spell because he previously had no connection to this town when the spell came into effect. But when he chased up on this witness, he realized all his leads had forgotten this witness ever existed, which prompted him to come to Westview and run into this mystery. Monica then gets sucked into the force field, and 24 hours later, we were then reintroduced to Darcy Lewis. In case people don't remember,
It's, Darcy.
Darcy Lewis is Jane Foster's intern from Thor and Thor the Dark World, who calls Mjolnir a mutant. And even though she's an astrophysicist, and this doesn't seem like an astrophysics problem, with some pluckiness and a little bit of luck, she discovered that there is a sitcom signal being piggybacked off cosmic microwave background radiation. Look, they just clearly wanted to use the character, so they had to work her into the show somehow, okay? The instrument she's using, a physioscope, I'm pretty sure it's not even a real thing. It is, however, a real X-Men reference, because it says Lexington Instrumental, referencing Alex Lexington, who is one of the mutants that lost his powers when Wanda said no more mutants in the comic House of M. I also think it's pretty significant that cosmic microwave background radiation was described as
relic radiation dating back to the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Because in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Collector also described the Infinity Stone as
Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots. Infinity Stone.
meaning that whatever is causing these background radiation could be Infinity Stone related, which makes sense when you remember the Vision is powered by the Mind Stone, and Wanda was created by experiments with the Mind Stone. And we see a scene of the Mind Stone exploding in a lot of the trailers for WandaVision. We also find out that my speculations were right, that the Beekeeper is just a guy in a hazmat suit who was transformed when he entered Wanda's sitcom reality. Since they don't show us what happened to him after Wanda says no, people have been wondering what happened to the Beekeeper. But if you pay attention during the opening theme song of episode 3, you can see that he is the guy who's serving ice cream to Wanda and Vision, so he's just been integrated into Wanda's fantasy sitcom world. Now, a lot of people are speculating about director Hayward, wondering if he's gonna turn out to be a villain, especially considering he's kinda mean to Jimmy and Darcy. Some are even wondering if he's related to the Hydra agent character, also named Hayward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm a little bit more skeptical. First of all, I don't think they're gonna be really referencing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Hayward is a very common name. And I think it's perfectly understandable for him to be a little bit short with the mere FBI agent and think what's happening here is above his pay grade. And he does personally oversee operations after Monica disappears. And guys, some people are just jerks. That doesn't mean they're evil or Hydra agents. Also, is it just me or is there seem to be some genuine chemistry between Darcy and Agent Woo? It's pretty cute. I'd ship them. We then see them finding out the real-life identities of people they see on Wanda's sitcom broadcast. A little funny thing to note here is people with more exotic names like Abelage Tandem and Isabel Masueda get vanilla names like Norm or Beverly. A lot of people are analyzing this board full of names and theorizing why Dottie or Ralph isn't on it. But remember, at this point, the S.W.O.R.D. agents have only seen the first episode of Wanda's sitcom. If you look at it, all the photos are from the first episode, and Dottie isn't in the first episode. They're clearly just looking at the people who show up on screen and trying to find out their real identity, and Ralph have never been on the show, so they have nothing to go by. The actual thing we should focus on is that Agnes doesn't have an ID attached to her file, meaning they don't know who she is. I think they're setting Dottie up to be some sort of red herring, especially with Agent Woo asking if she's real in a later scene, but the real threat, I believe, is Agnes. They then see Monica Rambeau, and I think Agent Woo's words here confirm my suspicions that these people aren't acting, they've just been actively warped by the reality to play their roles. We then get the confirmation that the helicopter we see in episode 2 is a S.W.O.R.D. drone, and that the voice we hear over the radio is Jimmy Woo trying to make contact. I think it's worth noting here that the episodes they see are slightly edited to remove the parts where Wanda is reminded of reality, which begs the question, what is this signal? Its nature is paradoxical because whoever hit the town and changed reality probably wouldn't want other people receiving this signal. So someone else must be sending this signal out either deliberately or subconsciously, and whoever is behind this is probably editing the signal so people don't catch on to what's really happening. We then see the part of the confrontation between Wanda and Monica that we didn't get to see before. How that scene is shown here is very interesting. We zoomed into Wanda's face in 4:3 ratio where the SWORD agents are watching the signal, but when we zoom in to the sitcom world, it didn't remain in the 4:3 ratio like the previous sitcom episodes have been. It extends back to the 16:9 ratio, which now we know represent reality, and it's no longer shot in the sitcom style double camera. We actually see cinematic camera angles, and we see the wall we have never seen inside the Wanda residence, and Wanda literally breaks the fourth wall, blasting Monica out of the house. We then get the creepiest shot we've ever seen in a MCU movie, the Vision as a grey corpse with a hole in his head where Thanos ripped out his Mind Stone. This probably means Vision is actually just a lifeless corpse right now, being reanimated and marionetted by Wanda. This is also a reference to the comics where Vision was disassembled at some point, and when reassembled by the Avengers, came back as a pale, emotionless version of himself. We get Monica saying,
Wanda. It's all Wanda.
This coupled with Wanda directly attacking Monica Rambeau and a lot of the creepy lines she get like,
I have everything under control.
This episode seems to be painting Wanda definitively as the antagonist of this show. But I think there's a slight misdirect here as to how complicit and aware Wanda is of what she's doing. I am still firmly believing that there is another malevolent parties acting in the background, manipulate this situation to their advantage, which I will go over in my theory video. The episode then ends with Wanda and Vision trying to retreat back into their perfect little sitcom life, and this is signified by their screen ratio returning back to 4:3. But something is not quite right anymore. As they sit down to watch TV, they creepily look at the camera, as if they are aware that someone is watching them through it. What an episode. They gave us a lot of answers, but there's still a lot of mystery left to solve. I'm absolutely loving this show, but for those people who haven't been enjoying the sitcom nature of the first 3 episodes, is this episode a game changer for you guys? Are you guys back on board? Leave a comment and let me know what you think is happening, if Wanda is the real villain here or if there's more sinister going on. And that concludes the second ever episode. As a new channel guys, I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and I plan to upload regularly. And as I get better at this, I plan to branch out into a lot of other video types like trailer breakdowns, reviews, video essays, and deep dive into nerdy topics in pop culture. So give me a thumbs up if you want to see more, and thanks for watching.